Hello there. Welcome back. This is Monica Garcia and my friend Michelle Tomlinson. And look at all the titles she has there. Yeah, she's a badass. We're just two acting fools that love to create. We love to talk about acting, do acting, see acting, all the things.
Teach acting.
Oh, yeah, we're here because we're
direct
teachers.
actors.
Oh, yeah. Write about it, create films. So we're here today with a special guest. He has been on shows like Navy SEALs, NCIS Los Angeles, Showtimes The Affair. He has been in incredible films like Welcome to the Men's Group and the Academy Award-winning film Argo. Let's bring in our guest, Ali Saam. Hi, Ali.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Monica. Hi, Michelle.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's
and our
my
guest.
pleasure.
We're going to pick your brain a little bit today, if you don't mind, all things acting.
Okay.
We asked if you had any topics, and you left it up to us. So,
Ooh. You are a brave soul.
I guess I didn't know what I was getting myself
into. No, Ali, we're just interested a little bit about what other actors do and what your experiences are. And we just want to talk a little bit about the way that you work. What style of acting do you do and why? Why do you work the way that you do? Or do you use a bunch of different styles of acting?
Very good question. Before I even say that, I used to think there's only one specific method or teaching, whatever, and so either that was the best, everybody complied with that, or then that means they didn't have any system. Then I got to see different people doing different things, and there was some really good work from all different spectrums. So eventually I changed my opinion of there's only one specific or one that's best. I think there are certain techniques, certain systems, certain methods that work for certain people and don't work for some other people. But for me, just to address myself, I specifically wanted to go after the type of acting that was attractive to me. And what I mean by that is, just to put it very simply and mildly, is, let's say if I were to look at certain people who dress up and I like a certain fashion, I like a certain guy who dresses a certain way because I like his suit or because I like the sports jacket or whatnot. So if I want to dress up like that guy, I wanted to see where he gets his fashion from, where does he shop at, and how does he think about matching shirts, colors, and all of that. So that's what I did for acting, to find an acting school. Years ago, I knew that I wanted to study that. I didn't believe that I should just wing it, or I should just go at it myself. And I wanted to participate in the process. I wanted to be a student of the process, and I was not afraid to put in the time, to put in the effort. And my goal from the very get-go was not to become rich or to become famous. Now, if it happens and I do that, that's just the icing on the cake. And my philosophy is, I would like to be able to do this full-time, obviously. So if I could work and make money, but I don't have to do anything else, that would be ideal. But I know that's not a very tangible goal in the beginning, at least. It takes some time. At least for me, it took a while. And then I looked around and I see my other actor friends who are all the ones that I consider artists and actors. I noticed that we all are putting a lot of work, a lot of effort. It's not an overnight success. And regardless of what people think, there's going to be a long road, but it's not really sort of the destination, it's the journey. So that's how I changed my mindset. And I studied, I researched what I wanted to study, what was attractive to me. So once I found that, once I found the actors that I was interested in working, be like, and use them as my acting role models. Then I zoomed in as to, okay, where did they get their training and what are their thoughts, ideas? And that's how I came about to finding Stella Adler's technique. Again, I like to emphasize there are other techniques. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm not saying that this is the best. I'm saying for me, that's what was attractive. And that attracted.
Yeah, we talked about that a
Last
couple
week.
episodes. Oh, was it last week? Yeah.
I
About
believe so.
one of the questions we posed to one another was, what style of acting do you think is the best? And our answer both was whatever is best for you, you know, whatever works for you. And you found the Stella Adler technique that worked for you. Yeah. Had you tried other ways of working, or did you just, what you said, you found the people that you liked their work and found out what they did and then followed?
Yes, the latter. Basically, when I studied at at Stella Adler's conservatory, I really had no training. I had done some minor community plays in Utah, out of all places that I used to live in, but there was no training. I had to get my brain around, okay, how do you do this? How do you, I don't even know how I got a couple of parts that I did, honestly, when I auditioned. And then I took a class at university, just a class, and I got a little bit of taste of what it is to study that. So I realized that, okay, there is ways to study it, and that's how I got interested in becoming a student of the process. So, but yeah, and obviously we all see films or actors that motivate us or they inspire us to pursue something, whether it's acting, whether it's any other sector. We all, for the most part, have one or two who really were inspiring, and they were the big inspiration for us to follow.
Who inspired you?
The moment, I never forget that, the moment that I decided to pursue it professionally was one afternoon when I got out of work early and I went to a movie theater and I watched The Unbearable Lightness of Being. And I was mesmerized by Daniel Day-Lewis. I was absolutely mesmerized by his work, smitten, whatever you want to call it. I loved the movie and I loved his performance in it. So, and I remember when it was done, it was an afternoon matinee. There was just about 6 or 7 people in the theater, and I stood up and I was clapping. And I didn't care who thought what. I really didn't, it didn't.
That's profound.
So then I said, as I was standing up, I pointed to him. I said, I'm gonna go for this. I have to get on this journey. I always wanted to do it, but I had my reservations and doubts and fears. But when I saw that, I said, that's what I want to do. And of course, let me tell you, in the background, the ones that I had always admired, the same name comes up for a lot of people. Marlon Brando was one for me. Marlon Brando was the one who actually woke me up to what acting could be like out of the movies that I have seen, Streetcar and On the Waterfront and so forth. But these were just some of the very early motivators for me.
Did those motivators and that inspiration help you kick down your own walls of fear and hesitation?
Right, exactly. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. I want to study it. And even if I never get to do it, at least I've studied it. And I never expected it to be easy from the get-go. And I was proven over and over when I went to school, when I found the school. And by the way, I went to different schools. I talked to people who were in charge of admission. So I asked a lot of questions. I remember I went to Strasbourg's, I went to American Academy dramatic arts. This is after I moved to LA and I got a job and I was working full-time, a full-time job. This is probably at least, I would say, 8 months after I moved to LA, 8 months to a year.
After you started studying, how long did it take before you started working? How long did you give yourself? Did you feel you were ready? Did your teacher tell you you're ready? How did you start working?
When I talked to my teacher, one of the things that, I learned was that you cannot rush it. You definitely gonna, first of all, you gotta make sure you want to do it and you do it for the right reasons. Otherwise, you're gonna die. You're gonna get tortured.
This industry will kill you.
Yes.
It's painful.
And to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I there were times that very early on, there were times that I said, God, do I want to do this? Because this is a cruel world. And I have my own insecurities and I have my own voices, in my head. And on top of that, you see what's happening outside too. You get to meet people, you get to see different egos and all of that. So, it made me want to stop and think about, am I crazy to put myself through this? Do I want this? Do I not want this? What do I want out of it? And the good thing is I never had any expensive hobbies. So I said, well, I'm going to allocate my whatever money I was going to spend on fancy cars or dating or going out, nightclubs and stuff. I said, I want to put my time and money that I have, because I was working a full-time job. Remember, it was an engineering job. So the limited time that I had, I figured, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it about a year, and just not for the acting, just for studying it and see how that goes. If I don't study, I'm not going to pursue it. That I was clear on. So if there is any way for me to pursue this, it's got to be do it my way, what I consider the proper way, which is studying it, understanding it to the best of my abilities. So, and then the second thing is, it doesn't matter how long it takes. I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to do it when it's right. Did I want to get into the game early on? Of course. I think the temptation is always there.
And how long was that, Ali?
Oh my God. I would say I did not even think about pursuing it for 6-7 years. I did not even I did not even think about it, because I didn't want to do, again, everything I'm saying is from my perspective. I didn't want to do a half-assed job. I didn't want to do something that I would look at myself and hate myself for doing it,
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, I learned it's not the destination. It is the journey. With all this, with all the tears and sweat and all the hard work. And I was ready. I knew this thing wasn't going to be easy. So I said,
but you were ready.
I have a question.
Sure.
That takes us back to, you said you had a full-time engineering job. I think I sprained my brain a little when you said that. So a full-time engineering job as an engineer? Is that?
Yes, as an
great?
engineer.
So you had some kind of formal education prior to
absolutely.
that, no?
Yeah. When I lived in Utah, I went to school. I studied for years, and I got my bachelor's of science in computers, and I was working. So those kinds of works, you cannot work for 2 hours a day and then get out. You are
correct.
At
Right.
least 8 hours.
Right.
You have to comply with the rules. You have to be, and so there is the training.
There's a discipline that I'm seeing as a through line to you that can really, and that's why I'm kind of stopping and rewinding to that, because the discipline of acting, you applied the discipline of your engineering schooling and profession that you had for however long, and you applied that to how you approached the business of acting. And I think it's so important to pause on that and really just have a breath with it, because what you've shown and proven in your IMDb credits, but also who you are as a human being and how you're presenting this information, is everybody is on a different timeline.
Right.
Every single person is on their own specific timeline. And if you do not make it to A-list famous by the time you're 18, it is okay because you can still be working and with A-list actors and be on your way to A-list actors at whatever age that is for you.
Right.
And that is something that can alleviate a lot of pressure for a lot of young actors, any age actors really, but a lot of young actors really feel the pressure of having to make it before they're 18 years old.
Absolutely.
And you went to college and had a full-on, whole other left brain profession
Right.
before taking acting classes.
Right.
That's really badass. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. I love that you've brought that up.
Yeah, it's for me, and I've heard different sides of the story. I mean, there are actors who say, "Hey, there is no plan B for me. It was either that or I wasn't going to make it." I was never that brave. I was never that gutsy. Why wasn't I? Because I had responsibilities. I had to pay bills. I was taking care of. I mean, after my studies, I helped my mom move over to the States. So I had to take care of my mom. I had to take care of myself. And even without my mom, I wanted to take care of myself. I did not want, not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that I didn't, working at a restaurant wouldn't suffice for me. I had to have a good job. And I did those jobs when I was going to college too. My first job was a dishwasher busboy at a Sizzler restaurant many years ago, which was it was an awakening for me, but I wanted to do it. It was uncomfortable. But again, I wanted to see what it was like to work and making money. And so I went to college. One, I wanted to get an education. And two, I had to study that because that was one of the only options I had. One of them was going to be a technical engineering type of a thing. So that's why I got into that. And, you make more money and you also have to learn. There's a lot of time you have to allocate. So for me, I had to take that route. I wanted to take that route. I wanted to make the money so I pay the bills and I can do what I want to do. I always was very artistic. The arts always turned me on. But it matters where you are raised, how you are raised, what culture you come from, because every culture, every location has its restrictions. At the same time, it has its inspirations. There are pros and cons. For me, it was one of those where I had to comply to certain things first and then pursue what I wanted to pursue. The acting, singing, arts was never encouraged in my culture as a serious thing.
Let's just give a little backstory to that, Ali. You could not pursue what you wanted to because your family had to answer to send you money from Iran, right?
Right.
And that they had to approve the classes that you were taking.
Right.
So you had to pursue a serious profession. You could not just come to the States and study acting. It wasn't just because they still had control over what you did.
Exactly. Right. See, when the regime in Iran is a very it's a very strict, hardcore dictatorship. Even though I was getting my parents were sending money for my school education here. It was their money, but in order for the government to allow for that money to come here, they specifically said anybody who wants to send money to the kids abroad, the kids have to be studying certain fields. One of those fields was engineering / any technical to medical stuff, and so basically the kind of things they wanted to have back there. If anybody wanted to study anything outside of that, especially any artistic stuff, as they say in Italian movies, forget about it. It ain't gonna happen. Forget about it. So that we couldn't do. So I had to get into one of those, and it was extremely hard for me because I did not have any desire to get into any of those fields to begin with. And I had to, so I changed majors 4 times because out of those fields that sucked for me, I wanted to find the one that sucked the least, the
Yeah,
one that
for
was
sure.
less torturous. So I changed majors 4 times. Finally, I took on the computer classes. So when I graduated, I had a lot of extra credits that I really didn't need, but because I had to figure out which one of them am I going to be tortured less, and I found one. So I always envied my friends who were studying that and they were enjoying it. But I remember I always would walk from one side of campus to the other side. I would walk through the pathway that I would be passing by the theater department. And I would go in and I would watch some of the rehearsals and some of the study. And I was envious that I couldn't study that. And I said, you know, I wished that I remember the air in that building was different. It had a different, it's so weird. It had a different smell.
I totally agree.
No, it does.
Smell, a different
It
energy.
does.
It smells like home, dude.
Yeah, it was just, you know how you go somewhere and you smell your mom's cooking and you feel at home. For me, it was like that. When I would go to the engineering department, the smell was different, the air was different, and I had gone to manufacturing engineering. That's the one I started, and they had these machine shop labs that I absolutely hated, and I took it for a while. And the odd thing is I also got okay grades as much as I hated it, but I wanted to get out of that. It was a torture, so I kept changing majors. So the computer department, I guess, I could stand the smell of that and the air. It wasn't as torturous, but it wasn't.
So you finally found your place. You knew what kind of style of acting you wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
You start auditioning, you took the time.
Right.
You start working, great projects, great films, TV. And one day you get an audition for Argo. I want to talk a little bit about what that audition process was like for you. Like, what was that like to book that job, or how did that go for you?
Yes, I heard about the audition for this film. It's called Argo, and once I read about it, I noticed, oh my God, this is the script about the one that George Clooney was trying to do at the time. The first title for it was Escape from Tehran. And I remember specifically, I read about it when I had taken my mom to one of her doctors. We were waiting to get in. I picked up this magazine in the waiting room, and I read about this article that George Clooney wanted to get involved. I thought, oh, this is great. This would be fantastic. I love to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this, you know.
Because you're from Tehran, right, Ali?
And I was from Tehran, and what I read was exactly what I was familiar with about these hostages and them getting out and all of that. So when I got the audition, I heard about this script, which the name was changed to Argo. And I said, you know, I called my manager, and I was lucky enough to have a manager by then. And I said, look, you got to submit me for this. And this has been on my radar for the past 6-7 years, and they're finally doing it. He goes, yeah, okay, sure. And then when he submitted me, he said, yeah, you have an audition. About a couple of weeks later, I got an audition for it. So I went to Warner Brothers Studios, and I saw a bunch of other actors waiting, and I thinking, oh God, there we go. I'm sure one of those guys is going to get it because he looks the part. He has this, he has that, all this shit that comes to our head. Can I say that, by the way?
Well, you did.
So all this stuff that goes to your head. But I said, you know, but I was ready. I pretty much had, I knew what the character was. I had my lines down, and so when it was my turn, I read, and the wonderful lady, I never forget her name, Laura Kennedy, was the head of casting at Warner Brothers, and one of the most wonderful people in the business that I had the pleasure of meeting. She was extremely kind, very, very cool, and she says, this is just be, don't be nervous and take your time. And so I read the part, and I noticed when I read it, she just looked at me. She goes, "Oh, now can you do it this way?" And she asked me to do it a different way. I said, "Sure." So I did it another way. Then she goes, "Great, great." And she talked to me and asked me what my background was and all of that. And then I left, and I didn't hear back. I didn't hear back for probably another couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks. Then I got a call back. And this time they wanted me to read for 2 other roles. So they sent me the audition for 2 parts, and I had to make sure that I make the 2 roles totally different. I didn't want it to be the same guy. It had to be because there were 2 different characters. So I wanted to make that clear. And so I went back in, and we did it. And she says, "Thank you for coming. And the reason you have 2 different other parts is because we want to see what other characters you could play. And can you please read this?" And I said, "Sure." So she told me which character to start with, and I went for that. And then I started for the other role. I read her for the other role. And then she goes, "Oh, great. Can you read for the first one again?" And I said, "Sure." So I did the first thing. So I had to remember to do exactly what I did between the 2. Yeah. So we did it. And she goes, "Thank you. The reason we asked you back in with these 2 other characters, we just want to see what other possibilities we have here with you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, and great. You were great." And she thanked me, and I left. And then I saw this other actor who had auditioned for Argo. He asked me, "Did you audition?" I go, "Yeah, I auditioned. This was, my God, it was 3 weeks ago. I had a callback, but I haven't heard anything." He goes, "Oh, don't worry, because they're still casting." I go, "They are?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Because I think like it's done." I think he goes, "No, they're still casting." So I said, "Great," but I didn't hear back. So I figured they probably didn't like what I did, or I wasn't right for the part. And as I was going through that, I got a call from my manager, and he says, "Yeah, what are you doing around this time frame?" I think it was October, September, October. I go, "Nothing." He goes, "Because you booked Argo." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you booked Argo." And I go, "Did I? Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah, you did." And Laura Kennedy loves you, and Ben Affleck saw your audition tape, and he really likes you. And he and I was talking to Laura Kennedy, and he says Ben really likes Ali's work, and he's talking about you all the time, and he wants to you have booked it, but you read for 3 parts, and Ben wants to put you in for the bigger role, but they have to work things out. So you got one of those parts already, but they want to put you in the bigger part. I go, "Wow." Then they gave us all the details on the part, and I got the script for Argo, and
Didn't they make the 2 characters into one role for you, Ali?
They did. I think they did. Yeah, they made that character
Perfect.
a
Yeah, I was
composite
wondering.
character. Yeah, and the funny thing is, I had prepared. I had prepared my audition based on the character that I thought I had nothing in common with, because the guy looked totally different than me, and he definitely, I was nowhere near where this guy was, because the guy was one of the most brutal and vicious characters during the revolution of Iranian government. And he is the guy who actually executed a lot of people, thousands of people, including the previous regime's top generals and a lot of other innocent people, including students from universities that were against the regime, and they had started demonstrations. So he was the vicious guy. They called him one of the titles he had was like he was the executioner. So the character was a composite character, but the base of it, I based it on that guy, and I researched what went in it, as it was like him and also the head of the police for the Revolution Guard.
That's when they talk about being lucky, when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
You had studied
equals success.
Right.
Yeah. I remember working on that with you, Ali, and
Right.
he came in and we were going over his choices, and there was one action he had,
Right.
and it was to hunt. I'll never forget it. Because he was hunting them down. When he told me that, we were in my living room like, yes! And we were like so excited. And we're like, working on this thing together. But, it was to the point where Ali will work with me on something because he wants to just work it out, like play with it, discover, he doesn't want to go into the room the first time and try these things.
Right.
But Ali doesn't need to work with me, but he does because he's smart. He wants to work on it like any actor. Like you get a friend or somebody, and I just happen to be a coach, so it works out that we're able to work on things together when an opportunity comes. But when he told me his action choice, I mean, I was like, yeah, that's. And Ali has this menacing look that he's a super nice guy, but yeah, he has a side to him that if he looks at you, he'll make his wife cry. She'll say, "Stop doing that! Stop doing it!" Because he has that.
Stop doing that! Do not do that to your wife. That is not nice.
No, but he's. You can tell the actors that have put in the time and the work.
Oh my God, there is such a difference with people who have studied for a long time and people who just jump the gun, and just kind of go for it. There's a lot of heartache on the road when you just jump into it and start swimming, and you try to figure out as you go. This industry is just not one of those things.
Not at all.
It's just not one of those things. So fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. So wonderful.
It's a long road, it's a long journey. And honestly, at no point during that journey, you, again, this is my perception, this is my experience. At nowhere during that journey, you feel like you are at your destination and this is it, you have it, you got it made. There is no such thing as I got it made. I studied years ago at Stella Adler's. I studied with Arthur Mendoza and for years, and then I left and I did my work. I tried to start auditioning, and then I realized that I needed to get back into it, and I needed to get ready for it. That's when then I studied with Monica, who had started to teach that, and then I took those, and I have been fortunate enough to have good teachers for my acting. I was fortunate enough to find out, first of all, what works for me, what's attractive to me, and then I went with that. And again, I always say that not any one specific way or technique works for all. It doesn't. There are different techniques for different people. This is the one that was attractive to me, and again, it's not like you could. How can I say? It's not that you could just learn it overnight and think that you got it. And I remember one of the things that Arthur used to say: you cannot have your ego with this. You don't think that you made it. You cannot do that. And he was right. And then when I started studying with Monica, who's also one of my best friends, I admitted to her. I said, even though I've done some work, even though I worked on Argo, even though I've done this and this, but honestly, there are times that I feel like, oh my God, what did I learn? I need to go back and just retrace those, redo those, go back to the drawing boards. Many times I get back to the drawing boards. In fact, every time I start working on anything, when I have time, I go back to the drawing boards. I start from scratch. I put in what I know, what I learn, for the technique and for everything else in place. And sometimes, no matter how prepared you are, you go there and everything goes out the window, you know. And then you go, oh my God, what happened? And then you just have to learn to go with it. And
well, that's when I think that's when you can fall back on your years of training. It's there.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
whatever can happen, you can get nervous or you blank out or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
Your default mode is already like so high because of your training and level of work. You agree, Michelle?
1000%. Absolutely. A strong foundation. The house may burn down, but the foundation always remains. So you can always build again.
Exactly. And
Well said.
again, I'd be the first one to tell you some of the very basic stuff that you learn. I mean, if you don't, I mean, there's things that you could forget. Things that you go, how did we do this? Oh my God, how did I do that? And you go back and review those. But the foundation that once you build the foundation from the start, that all of those little things that you learn, they are ingredients that are already there. Yeah,
and they carry you.
Go back and, you know, so, oh, okay, I forgot what, you know, it's just like when you prepare food. What did I put in there? How did I use that spice? You know, but you know how to make the food and how to prepare it. So when I see people who are younger or people who love something and they want to do it and they just, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to be an actor. It's funny because when I see that, when I see where they come from, if it's not coming from the right place, it becomes, I can tell, oh, you're going to have a hard time, man. That's not going to be it. You're going to be, you know, and I remember when I was told that you better think about this, make sure you really want to do this.
You have to be in love.
It's not what you think it is. It's not all this glamour, all this money. And you may even get lucky, get something early on, but that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. It's just, you know, honestly, my only advice to everybody who asks me how to get into that, I say, hey, don't do it unless you really love doing it to a point where you cannot be happy if you're not in it. Otherwise, don't waste your time. And otherwise, don't waste your time, your money, and it's going to be
your soul.
And your soul. Exactly. You know,
you take a lot of hits. You take a lot of hits on this journey, and you got to be ready to rock and roll, and you got to know that it's worth it.
Right.
All right. We have one last question, and Michelle, go for it. We're running.
And then I'm going to have to boogie out of here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a. This is such a typical Michelle question. Representation as far as being an actor, a Middle Eastern actor, and how Middle Eastern people are portrayed in the film industry. How do you feel about the representation? Is it strong enough representation? And what do you do to kick it in the teeth, so to speak?
Yeah, it's a really, it's a very timely question. It's been a timely question for the past 10, 15 years. But unfortunately, the Middle Eastern representation is definitely nowhere near what it should be. If you look in the society, just in LA alone, you have in every sector, whether it's law, whether it's medical, whether it's engineering, whether it's entrepreneurship, all the way down to whether it's any government job, you see people from Middle Eastern backgrounds, people like myself who still do have an accent when we speak English. It's not without. I wasn't born here. I wasn't really raised here from an early age where I would be able to get over that and speak the language like any other American-born citizens here. So when you go to a hospital, you find doctors who are from India, doctors who are from any Arab countries, doctors from Iran. So there are Middle Eastern doctors. When you go to court systems, I know of Middle Eastern lawyers who still do have an accent when they go to court. But yet, when you watch all these TV shows, you hardly come across any of that. And if you do, they are the ones who were probably born here, or they are using a character who looks like a Middle Eastern character, who, God forbid, has a slight accent. And so you don't really find that. So the representation of the Middle Easterns, I think, is nowhere near what it should be. That's the number one thing. The number two things, the majority of the roles that we see for Middle Easterns who look like me, obviously, is what? The terrorists, the bad guy.
Yep.
So, you know,
Yep.
so some actors say, hey, if it's a terrorist, I don't want to do it. And I said, well, God bless you. It's great. But for me, I got to do it because I want to work. So I have really the certain limitations I've set for myself, that if it's this kind of a role, I really don't want to do it. But if it's a terrorist role, if it's a bad guy, yes. And if it's work, I want to do it. And I'm hoping that it's for a good project. But the way I look at it is, anyone who's a bad guy, anyone who is a terrorist, anyone who is anything bad, they were not born that way. So they are doing it for a specific reason or reasons. So if I portray this character, this guy who's a terrorist, this guy's a bad guy, at least I want to give it a certain human touch to it. I want to portray it as realistically as possible. And because he didn't come out of his mother's womb a vicious guy. So I look at it that way. I make it a challenge, and I approach it. So I don't.
That's really healthy. That's really a beautiful. That's a beautiful way to view it, and a beautiful way, I think, to move through this industry with your own humanity intact, and without being like, I hate this, you know, the feelings. And I'm really excited that we've maybe entered a time in our industry where representation is such a hot button word, and something that hopefully more and more productions are not only embracing but providing more diversity. And I would love to see and experience Middle Eastern hero roles.
Right.
You know, I have some of my best doctors. I'm a cancer survivor, and some of my best doctors are not from this country, and they're amazing human beings, beautiful human beings. And there's so much they that we say when we talk about any ethnicity that's not white in this country. It's always, there's so much they, we, they, and I just really am excited to have we.
Right.
And just have it be a hell of a lot more we. I just experienced that in an interview I had recently where I said the word they several times. I was like, what the hell am I doing? It's you know, we. And so I really hope that, you know, A, you get the auditions to play the hero. B, you book them. C, start creating more content in a more conscious world that we're trying so desperately to create, those of us who stand in the light as a we, and maybe create some really dope ass material that puts one in a hero role who is Middle Eastern. I think that'd be so insanely beautiful to have more of that.
I agree. And Ali is one of the kindest. He's the best father and husband and all. Like he's
there's
got
a big heart
biggest,
coming up out of this dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah, legit.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, thank you, Ali, for being here, sharing your experience. If you'd like to reach Ali, you can reach him at Ali at alisaam.com. And Michelle can be reached at michelletomlinson.net. And you can reach me at actingartist.com.
And you all can have an inspired day by, I mean, dude, I'm so glad we had you on today. What a high honor to listen to your story.
It was a pleasure to be a part of the show. I every day, honestly, I pray there will be more meaningful stories that we need to tell. There will be more opportunity for all. I cannot wait to have more women directors. I love to work with women directors. I honestly, I like to work with male or female directors from all ethnicities, from whites, from my area, my background, or any background. But especially, we need more women directors. We need to see more.
Amen, brother. Sing that song.
Any time I've worked on a project with women directors, it has been a joy, and I see their passion in it and how they approach it. So I'm praying for more diversity all across the board.
All across the board.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
All right, everyone.
All right,
thanks
y'all.
again. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you again, Ali, for joining us. And we will see you all next week.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Bye-bye.